Welcome to Illini Drive, your destination for Illini sports. I am Orri Benetar, joined by Hunter Warning, Jade Hilton, and Luke Sciacotta. Cole Henke will be joining us shortly. We've also got Ryan Wilson in studio coming in because he helped us get our very special guest that's going to be coming on at around 6:20. So first off, Hunter, behind the table to start off. How you doing today, Hunter?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. You know, the weather's fine. It's a little humid out there, but I'm happy to be back in the fixed AC here at the Daily Illini.
Fixed AC indeed. How about you, Jade?
I'm kind of ready for fall. I'm kind of sick of this hot weather already, so I want to put those sweaters on.
Technically is fall. That's the thing about it. It already technically is fall. It doesn't feel like it.
This hot right now.
I agree. I definitely agree. How about you, Luke? How you doing?
You want to try that again?
How are you doing?
No, I'm kidding. I'm doing very well. And Cole Henke's right on the other side of the glass. Just walked in. Hey, Cole. I don't know if you can hear us from out there, but yeah, the weather is like still in the 80s right now. Still feels like summer, doesn't it? I kind of like it. I mean, Ori's like, no. Jade's like, no way. I just want to hang on to summer as long as possible. But that's
bring on the sweatshirt weather.
Jeans, it's always nice.
Sweatshirts. That's what I'm all about.
Me and Jay just literally made the exact same face after Luke just said,
like,
I like this humid weather. It's like, back. But we're not here to talk about weather. We're here to talk about some sports, obviously. And we're going to start off with some Illini football, of course. No game this week, obviously. I don't know if people are upset about that. Maybe a little bit relieved. Personally, for me, it's nice to have a bit of a break from Illini football after these last two games.
It's only been 2 games.
3. It has been 3.
I'm sorry, 3.
The first game,
3.
First game is sort of null and void. Kind of was like a dream almost. And now we're back to reality.
I guess I still had the Bears on my mind. It's only been 2 games for the Bears. I'm already tired of the Bears, but I'm already tired of the Illini. I guess after the first 2 losses is what I meant to say. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but I kind of am.
It's very easy to get your disappointing orange and blues mixed up.
Right.
So
a lot of orange and blues here that are disappointed in this state currently. But only bye week for Illinois is this week. And then after that, that tough 9-conference game schedule that is coming up for the Illini. And we predicted the season before the season started. But now that we've seen all the teams kind of play, we can kind of gauge a little bit more how we feel about these upcoming Big Ten games. And in the specific order, of course, Nebraska, Purdue, Rutgers, Michigan, Minnesota, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Northwestern. And Hunter, we were talking a bit earlier. You feel that there is not a single game in this Big Ten schedule that is an automatic W for Illinois. Every game's going to be tough.
Definitely not an automatic W. I'm not saying they're not going to win any games for the rest of the year, but every year there's a couple games where you're like, okay, well, there's no way we can lose to Purdue. There's no way we can lose to Rutgers. Well, that's not the case this year, unfortunately. From what we've seen, it's going to be very tough, especially after this non-conference schedule where they've been pretty just not sharp, and they've really got to get it together if they're going to win some of these games. Like I said, the Purdue and Rutgers stretch after Nebraska is good. That's their best chance to get some wins. Definitely not guaranteed, which is not something we were saying even last year.
Anybody surprised that Nebraska and Northwestern are a night game? I mean, I know these schedules are made before the season starts, but I don't know. I probably would have put Wisconsin and Michigan State as
that
a
is
night
kind
game.
of surprising. I agree with that. Michigan State's playing Wisconsin. That's a good game.
That is going to be a good game. That should be a pretty entertaining one. I really hope Michigan beats the living crap out of Penn State, just because I hate Penn State for obvious reasons. But I am going to enjoy Michigan State and Wisconsin. That's going to be a fun one.
And I think definitely Illini fans should, and the Illini football team in general, probably going to be watching a couple of these Big Ten games, kind of scouting their opponents, especially this Nebraska-Northwestern game. That game could have some very serious implications for the entire Western Division. Nebraska coming in 3-0, big win against Oregon at home, a massive win for them. It was an emotional win, too. Of course, they put the flowers on the 27-yard line for their punter, who sadly passed away before the season started. Northwestern off to a very rocky start, 1-2. Yes, lost to ISU. Western Michigan, it was a nail-biter. A big win against Duke, though, to get them their first W. That game is going to be big for this Western Division.
I agree. I didn't really know what we were getting into with Nebraska to start the year. I didn't know their locker room situation seemed a little bit off. Tommy Armstrong Jr. not being named a captain. I really didn't know what to expect out of them, and they've come up and they've performed, especially in this Western Division that's kind of up for grabs. And Northwestern, obviously, we've talked about, has been kind of off, kind of a disappointment. Definitely lost some games they definitely should have won. But maybe they can start turning it around. The Wildcats, maybe they can take one from the Cornhuskers. It's going to be tough. But one thing is, it is in Evanston. It is not in Nebraska, which is huge because Nebraska shows up to play at home.
Hunter, do you think the Nebraska locker room situations, were those a little overblown?
Probably. I think it is a little bit because Tommy Armstrong seems to not care too much about it. I do think it's odd that you don't elect your senior quarterback as a captain. That kind of just strikes me as just kind of strange. It's something you kind of do. I don't know. That's your leader out there. Everyone always is talking about how important the quarterback position is, and it just struck me as odd at the beginning of the year.
Well, the best comp you can have for that is Connor Cook. Wasn't he not elected a captain when he was with Michigan State as a senior, I believe? You can look at that. And people were looking at that and saying, yeah, that's a little fishy, especially when he was going to be drafted in the NFL. They're like, okay, this guy has been at Michigan State for this long. He's never been a captain. Like, what's the deal? What gives here?
Yeah, it's just something that's a little off. It's something you usually see. You usually see that senior quarterback take that leadership position, and to not see it, especially elected by their own teammates, I think it was surprising to everybody, even in the Northwestern organization. I feel like that kind of like threw them for a loop. But oh well, it seems to be working out for them. They won all their games this year. So.
A lot of times you see it in their junior year that they can be elected a captain. Or maybe even the sophomore year if they're that good. But senior year, not being elected, you should be elected by then, right, Orri?
Yeah, I think it seems like it's more surprising because everyone says quarterback, most important position. They're the leader in the offense and really the leader of the team. But, people do have to realize sometimes that captain doesn't mean your best player. Captain means the player that's going to motivate your team the most, is the best leader. And Tommy Armstrong Jr. Might not be that leader for that Nebraska team. And that's the way to vote for captains, in my opinion. You got to have the rest of your peers, the rest of your players say to each other, who do we want leading our team? Who do we feel represents our team the most? And I guess it's not Tommy Armstrong Jr.
It's just still weird.
It's
weird.
It's definitely strange. Quarterback, captain, it seems like it's a given.
Yeah, they seem to go hand in hand. But do any of these games really interest you in the Big Ten, other than, of course, the three that we've spoken about, which would be the Michigan State, and Nebraska games?
For games this week?
Yeah, for games this week with Wake Forest at Indiana. You got Iowa at Rutgers, Nevada against Purdue, Colorado State against Minnesota. Any of these interest you guys? Me, not so much. I'm sure I'll be catching a little bit of all of them, but I don't know about that.
I think the Indiana-Wake Forest game could be something that throws people in for a loop. Indiana off to a 2-0 start, beating FIU and Ball State. Not the greatest opponents. Coming off a bye. It's a Big Ten ACC matchup,
Yeah.
It's something. Rutgers and Iowa is going to be also a game that's going to mean a lot for both divisions, really. I mean, Rutgers 2-1, only lost to a very good Washington side, beating Howard and New Mexico. Impressive for the Scarlet Knights. And I think going back more towards the Illini, preseason, you're looking at that schedule. Purdue and Rutgers, most people would say Illinois would win those games no problem. Purdue, they've had a decent start to the season, 1-1, beat Eastern Kentucky, Cincy. They're playing Nevada. And then you have Rutgers, which that game will be in New Jersey, and they're 2-1. So these are going to be tough games for Illinois. And the first three games of the Big Ten, Nebraska at this rate, probably not going to be a close game at this point.
I think that in that Iowa-Rutgers game, I think we're going to see Iowa come out firing, especially after that loss they handled from North Dakota State. I don't think they're going to take anything from Rutgers. I think they're going to shut them down real hard and respond well to that. So I don't know if we're going to get as good a look at Rutgers, really, but I am interested in that Purdue and Nevada game to see how Illinois can kind of fare against them.
You really think Iowa's going to do that on the road?
I absolutely do. Yeah.
I know Rutgers isn't that good, but
I usually call Iowa a scrub, which I've called them that pretty much all year, and they showed that by losing to North Dakota State, which is not a scrub team.
They're not a scrub team. They're practically FBS.
They're almost there, but I don't think you can get embarrassed by a team like that, and that you got to come out firing. I think Iowa's going to do that, especially against an opponent like Rutgers. I think Iowa has the tools to go out and at least shut down a team like that.
But we said that about the Illini after they lost to North Carolina, but in this situation, I would say Iowa has more talent than
I was
than
not
Illini.
a part of that to be noted. I was the one who picked that correctly.
You're still hanging your hat on that one, aren't you?
Why shouldn't I?
He's gotten everything right.
He has.
Hunter's having a fantastic season right now. Unless
I'm a college football savant.
Savant. That is quite a word.
Quoted.
That's probably the best word ever said in this studio combined.
Take my advice. Quit school. Go to Vegas. Make a living of this. That's my advice. It's not good advice, but that's my advice.
You'll be able to watch some hockey soon in Vegas. They're going to have an NHL team, which that's kind of interesting. Maybe a football team in Vegas someday too.
Do they have a name for that Las Vegas team yet?
Not yet. They're going to be coming up with that soon. Definitely. Now,
The Las Vegas Heaters.
The Heaters. Everyone's saying the Gamblers, but to me that's kind of cliche.
Of course,
I think,
of course it is.
I feel like if you had 4 professional sports teams in Las Vegas, they would all be called the Gamblers. I don't know what else would be like the Deserters because there's
High
a lot
Rollers.
of desert in Nevada.
High Rollers. Is that a good one?
The High Rollers. Who knows? Could be the Ice Skates. Could be the Las Vegas Hockeys. That's another topic of discussion later in the day. But I think so. Those first 3 games, Nebraska, Purdue, Rutgers. But then you're looking at these last 5 games for Illinois. There's the potential for a couple of bad routes. As we've seen Michigan trounce all 3 of their teams and just been playing really well. As again, you're listening to Illini Drive here on WPG 1071, brought to you by the Illinois Fighting Illini. For tickets and information on the Illini, visit fightingillini.com or call 1-866-Illini-1. Once again, fightingillini.com or call 1-866-Illini-1 for more ticket information. But back to the schedule for Illinois. Michigan, they've trounced all their opponents. Then you've got Michigan State. A lot of people saying that could be a trounce. Wisconsin as well. Iowa potentially. It's a really tough schedule. And Ohio State's not even playing Illinois this year.
Yeah. When I look at the Illini schedule, I just, like you said, Orri, I see too many potential blowouts here, especially from like Michigan State. That'll be on Dad's Day, by the way. And Wisconsin could be another one, but I'm just like having like visions of Michigan just demolishing the Illini on October 22nd.
That might be the worst loss of the season.
Like when they do that to Penn State, which I hope they do, I'm going to enjoy that. But if they do that to the Illini, it's not going to be a pretty sight to see.
And you look at Michigan's schedule before Illinois. They're playing Penn State this week. Michigan-Wisconsin's going to be a massive game for the entire Big Ten. At Rutgers, probably should be winning that. And then a bye week. I feel like those 2 weeks, playing Rutgers and then the bye week, that might set up Michigan for even a bigger route.
Watch out, Levy. Watch out. Because I look at this other game, Michigan against Michigan State. That's going to be that's always fun because whenever you have 2 interstate teams go head-to-head like that, it's kind of like, well, I mean, it's not kind of like, I shouldn't say this, but we talk about Illini against Northwestern. That always brings in a good crowd, both on the TV side of watching it and in the stadium as well. And, of course, Michigan and Michigan State, that's at a higher level, and it's always fun to watch, even when both teams may not be good or when both teams are pretty good. And in this year, it looks like both of them are going to be pretty good.
And then the last thing to touch on before we go to break here, and then we're going to bring on our very special guest at Northwestern. Not a good start to the season for Northwestern. They've got also a tough Big Ten schedule. They're playing Nebraska this week, at Michigan State, at Iowa, at Ohio State, Wisconsin, Purdue, Minnesota, then Illinois. We could be in for a good rivalry game between Illinois and Northwestern. It's going to be competitive, just like it was last year.
But is each team fighting for something? Are either
we don't
team
know.
fighting for a bowl game at that point?
We don't know. They could be.
Well, of course we don't. Of course we don't know. But if you had to make a prediction here,
Envisioning both of these teams' schedules, how hard it is, I don't know if they're going to be fighting for a bowl game. But it's an in-state rivalry. It's a big game. You want to win that rivalry game. You know, watching a movie on ESPN, War Eagle, that 30 for 30 about Alabama-Auburn, both teams could be winless into their Iron Bowl game. But if that team wins the Iron Bowl, they're bragging about it for the entire year. That makes their season. That Illinois-Northwestern game could define Illinois' success or not success for this season potentially.
But is that fair? I mean, I shouldn't say fair, but is that really a good idea to base Illinois on how well they play Northwestern? Because Northwestern may not be good by that time. By that time comes around, I just look at Northwestern and I'm just shocked. Well, I shouldn't say shocked. I'm a little surprised that they're 1-2 on the year. I mean, if they were 2-1, I wouldn't be at all surprised by that, but I just question whether Northwestern is really as good as anybody might have thought before the season started. They don't look as good as I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, I think more so what I mean with that is don't judge the Illini based on the Northwestern game. Mm-hmm. That just could be the signature game of the season, whereas
I agree.
All these other games beforehand, I'm not too sure. But we're going to be taking a quick commercial break here. But when we come back, we are going to have a caller in who was in Rio a couple weeks ago. You'll find out who it is when we come back here on Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1.
Now at McDonald's, get 2 Egg McMuffin or Sausage McMuffin with egg sandwiches or one of each for just $3. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Price of single item posted on menu board.
Hail to the orange. Hail to the blue. Hail alma mater. Ever so true. We love no other. So let our motto be victory. Illinois. Varsity. Fighting Illini football mini plans start at only $50. Secure your seat today by phone at 1-866-ILLINI1 or online at fightingillini.com.
Welcome back to Illini Drive, your destination for Illini sports. A packed house here now as we got Cole in the studio and we got Stephen Cohn who's going to be joining us later. But first, a very special guest, Illini wheelchair track coach Adam Bleakney joins us. He's also the coach for Tatiana McFadden. Adam, can you hear us?
I can, yeah. Hey, guys. How you doing?
How you doing, Adam? How was Rio?
Good.
Rio was good?
Yeah. Rio was great. Yeah. Great competition, great experience. People were great. So, it's everything you want in a Paralympic Games. And I think that going into the games, based on some of the media reports, we were a little apprehensive on what we were going to face and be confronted with. And you get some stories coming out of the Olympic Games that give you some indication of, and the Olympic Games went along just fine. So that did ease some of those tensions. But I tell you what, once we got there, everything was ran as smoothly as you expect. A major competition with 4,000 athletes. They're participating and competing as you'd expect. So it really was great.
Definitely good to hear about that. And I wanted to ask you, and I think all of us here were wondering because of all the Olympic coverage that we saw back in August, and then with the Paralympics here, Rio was getting a lot of, stuff falling around it about, the conditions of everything, how they're going to run everything. And I think the commute I heard was pretty long, about like 3 hours to get to the venues. Did you have any issues with any of that stuff that was being talked about?
Yeah, no, it's as far as the commute goes, it was about 35 minutes to an hour for us from the village to the stadium, the track and field stadium. It was a little bit shorter for some of the other venues. I know basketball was a little bit closer, but and that's the way it always is. In any games, there's always venues that are further away from the village than others. So that really fell in line, and I think that. I've had a conversation with multiple people. Just they'd ask, were you in fear for your life with guns rampant, and were you ever felt like your safety was at risk? And not at all. I mean, that was really, I think, overhyped in the media. It was a wonderful city, and the people were great and very, very friendly. And I'll share a story. You asked me about the commute, and just kind of illustrates how friendly they are. When you get in from the village, you get in a secure area. So the village is secure, and you get on the bus and you go to the venue. And when the location you get off the venue is secure too, right? So you're supposed to go from a secure area to secure area, and with no stops along the way, right? The bus is just supposed to run from point A to point B, and mostly for security reasons. And but that I'd say about half the time that happened, and we'd make it a couple blocks, and then the bus driver would pick up somebody he knew, and we'd drive a couple blocks and drop that guy off, and then he'd go up and pick up his lunch along the way, and then drop off a banana, a couple yogurts to friends along the way too. So some of these, if they didn't stop, it was about a 35-minute drive, but we had some that took over an hour, and partially because of traffic, but also because of these stops. And the funniest one experience I had, we were we were coming back to the village after a long day, and we were out the track. We get out there about 7 in the morning and get back at about 10:30 at night. So long day. So we're tired, and we're heading back to the village at night. And this bus driver, he's already stopped twice. Once to get his supper, which was like a roast beef sandwich, which he unwrapped while he was driving on the interstate, which I was a little bit fearful as we're dodging cars, and he's unwrapping the sandwich. But anyway, so we're driving by the venues, and he sees somebody on the side of the road, and I can't remember what country of a jacket the guy had, but so the bus driver starts honking his horn and veers over to the right, slows down, and starts pointing at the guy. And the guy had no idea what was going on, right? He was a little bit fearful that he's being run down by this bus, but the bus driver's laughing and yelling at him, and so finally the guy stopped, and the bus driver opened the door and said, "Hey, I want a pin. So they each country gets pins.
It's all about the pins.
You just kind of trade them and swap them. It's kind of a neat thing that everybody does. So anyways, he finds out that the bus driver is making this detour over the side of the road and scaring the guy out of his life just to get a pin. So but just laughing and have a good time about it. So I think that was really I think that captured the essence of the people, just really friendly, and they just they really connected with everyone, and that was great.
Wow, I think we should all try out for the Olympics in order to enjoy good times like that. But
yeah.
Adam, I wanted to ask: was there a specific trial or event that you just enjoyed watching the most while you were down there in Rio?
Yeah, for sure, and we had the athletes from the U of I representing the University of Illinois did such a phenomenal job across the board. They won 15 medals for the U.S. team, which is about 30%. So of every 3 medals won by the USA track and field team, one of them was won by an Illini. So really, they stepped up to the challenge of the Paralympic Games and performed and executed, and so that was thrilling. In particular, and if any of the athletes are listening, of course, I loved all your performances, and we're all exciting to watch. But one of them that stands out really was the triple and the sweep with Tatiana McFadden, Amanda McGrory, and Chelsea McClammer. And we were going in the 1,500 meter event, and all 3 had made it into the finals pretty, they decisively in their semis, and I had a sense where they were at strength-wise compared to some of their top competition, which we had some great athletes from China and Switzerland and Australia that were also vying for podium finishes, and but I brought them together before the race, and I said, I think if we can leverage the strength you guys have. I think as far as I'm concerned, you're between the 3 of you guys have the best speed on the track right now, and you're the most fit. And if you 3 work together, it's going to be hard for anybody else to beat you. And they they came together and worked as a team in that 1,500 and executed a strategy that we had in place perfectly, and won gold, silver, bronze, and that was incredible. I mean, it's so rare to have three women who train together every day to all hit their peak at the same time, right? So it's tough to get that peak time just right, and they did just that, and then to execute too as they did. That's really, really difficult to do, because there's in the final there's 9 other people who are equally as fast as anyone else in that race, and so you just have to race flawlessly. You can't make any mistakes, and they didn't. So so they won all 3 medals in 1,500, and the 5,000 meters was 2 nights later. So again, they all made it into the final. And going into the 5,000, I had I said, hey, I think we can do this again. I think you guys can sweep this. Just you have to race the same way you raced in the 15, and be ready for some different responses, because people are smart, right?
Yeah.
You can execute a strategy once against the world's best athletes, but you're not going to do it again successfully, right? They're smart. They're gonna adapt to it and key off of the first in the 1500, we knew everybody was keying off of Tatiana, right? Because she's the perennial champion. So we used her almost as a decoy. It was almost as if playing a chess match. Everybody was focused on the queen, and we used bishops to execute and to run the board, and so we knew we weren't going to have that strategy for the 5,000, and we didn't. They adapted, so we had to make a couple changes, and when I say we, they did on the fly. They made the changes during the race, and then once again, they swept again, and to do it once is incredible enough, but to do it twice over the span of 3 days and one Paralympic Games, that really was special and really incredible to watch, and I was very, very proud of them.
Yeah, and Adam, for me personally, I always enjoy watching the Paralympians because I myself, I've been in a wheelchair. I've never been a Paralympian before, but I've seen those that are athletes that are in wheelchairs, and I just marvel at what they're able to do. And you've been a coach for more than a decade. What's the biggest thing that you've learned along the way being a coach and seeing these athletes?
I think that the one truth with coaching is that it's all about the relationships that you have with the athletes. You may be the smartest coach in the world. You may know the most about your sport, and all the things that go into coaching, sports science and coaching theory and all those things, and nuts and bolts of coaching, right? You may be fabulous at that, and you may be very savvy in the art side of coaching, be able to apply all of these points of knowledge effectively. But if you don't have a strong relationship with the athletes and they don't trust you, and there's not a very strong and sound connection, then it's an ineffective relationship. So at the end of the day, the athletes have to buy into you and trust you and believe that what you're prescribing to them and having them do every day, twice a day, 49 to 50 weeks out of the year is going to be effective and help them reach their goals. And if they don't believe in that, then I would say we're really wasting our time here, and we have to get to that point first before anything great happens.
Now, in terms of Tatiana McFadden, who everyone would say could be considered the greatest Paralympian of all time, 4 golds and 2 silvers in Rio.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to hear that she's doing the 100-meter sprint, and then she's doing marathons at the end of the Olympics. Right. How is she able to do that?
Well, so there's 2 reasons. One is she's an anomaly. She's an outlier. There's few, if any, athletes like her. I mean, she has the genetic gift. I mean, she really does. She was just blessed with great genetics, and as they pertain to the sport, I mean, she's just wired the way that you need to be wired to be very, very powerful and very, very, very successful in the sport. So you take those genetics and you combine that with an incredible work ethic, incredibly diligent, never misses a training session, always an active participant in training, applies herself absolutely in each session. And I'd say the third thing is her attitude too. There's no one more with more tenacity and more dogged at the start line. I would say any race where Tatiana's on the start line is a race that she can win because she's so focused. There's this very, very, very focused and directed vision that she has in any race that she's at, and it's always addressing what's ever in front of her. So she races in the moment, and what I mean to say by that is there's never even a fleeting glimpse of self-doubt in her. She's just very confident, very determined, and very focused. So there's those 3 things really, I think, set her apart as an athlete, and she's fun to watch, obviously. So that's one part of it. The other point too is often the comparison is made between running and wheelchair track for obvious reasons. That's a parallel sport is running. The difference is, obviously between wheelchair track and running is that Usain Bolt isn't running a 5,000 or a marathon, right? You wouldn't see that, and it's a different sport. With wheelchair racing, you're using energy systems differently. The biomechanics are different. The interface with the racing chair obviously is a variable that you don't have in running. So it's more akin to cycling, right? So even the great cyclists have to be good sprinters, right? In the Tour de France, those guys are, at the finishing kick, they're hitting some pretty high velocities, right? And that's after a 5-hour stage ride. So that's very similar to wheelchair racing. If in order to be a great marathoner, you also have to be a great 800-meter wheelchair racer and 400 racers. The 100 is a bit of a stretch, which is why she's so unique and that she's able to be successful in such a wide spectrum of events. But it's very, very normal for our sport for athletes to be very, very good in the 800 and also in the marathon. And that's just the nature of the sport. It's all based on biomechanical skill and speed, and become very, very efficient at that. And to do that, we focus in on training in the 800 meter to 1500 meter zone, even my marathoners, and that's just because there's such a great transition, there's such a great relationship between what's necessary to be successful in that distance and the marathon. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but there's two reasons. One is she's an incredible, fantastic athlete, and two is just the nature of our sport. She is very unique in that she can pull back down all the way to 100. That's unheard of, just because the 100 is such a specialized event, and most people just can't spend the amount of time that they need to get really good at starts, and still have time left over in the day to be really good at the 800 meters and up. And Tatiana is just very gifted in that. We don't spend a lot of time training that starting skill work. She just is very naturally gifted in that. She's been able to retain that through the years. So she started as a high school athlete. She was one of the best in the world at 100 meters. And when she enrolled at the University of Illinois, one of our goals was to start pulling that speed over longer and longer distances. And I've done that with a few different athletes, but most of the time the athletes, once they get to a certain point, they kind of lose that 100 meter. And Tatiana's been unique that she hasn't. So she really is phenomenal.
Hey Adam, this is Ryan Wilson. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it. So now that you're back in the U.S., you got here on Monday, I believe.
Monday. Yep, I got back Monday, and then most of the athletes got back on Tuesday.
Okay. What did you most miss about Champaign life while you were in Rio? Was it the food? Was it something else?
Yeah, can you ask that again, Ryan? I didn't hear you. What was the most what in Rio?
What did you miss most about Champaign life when you were in Rio?
Oh, what did I miss the most? Well, I missed my family the most, so that was the toughest part of leaving and the most exciting part of being back. So everything else was just, standard issue as far as the games go. This was my first games that I went to as an athlete was in Sydney in 2000, so this was my fifth games, and it was what I expected. The food is cafeteria food, and the beds are concrete blocks, and not that you're spending much time on it anyways. I mean, you get back so late, and you're up in the morning so early on the coaching side of things that didn't really matter if it was soft or not. So I tell you what, yeah, it's great to be back in Champaign, great to be home.
Well, thank you, Adam, for joining us. Thank you for representing the United States and the University of Illinois so well in Rio for these past many years, and we hope to hear from you again. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, no, thanks. No, it's a privilege and an honor. Thank you.
No problem, Adam. Well, that was Adam Bleakney, the wheelchair track coach for the Illini, helping Tatiana McFadden to 4 gold and 2 silvers. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to get a score update from Jade Hilton, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Illini sports when we return on WPGU 107.1.
Hail to the orange. Hail to the blue. Hail alma mater, ever so true. We love no other, so let our motto be victory. Illinois, varsity. Secure your seats for Fighting Illini football today by phone at 1-866-ILLINI-1 or online at fightingillini.com. Hail to the orange. Hail to the blue. Hail alma mater, ever so true. We love no other, so let our motto be victory. Illinois, varsity. Fighting Illini football mini plans start at only $50. Secure your seats today by phone at 1-866-ILLINI-1 or online at fightingillini.com.
Welcome back to Illini Drive. Orri Benetar returning here. Make sure to follow us at Twitter at Illini Drive and call us at 217-337-1071. Let's take it to Jade Hilton for a score update.
In baseball, the Chicago White Sox suffered another loss to the Philadelphia Phillies 8-3. They play the Cleveland Indians tomorrow at 6:10 p.m. And the Chicago Cubs keep winning as they cruise in the postseason. They defeated the Cincinnati Reds yesterday 9-2, earning the series win. The Cubs take on the St. Louis Cardinals tomorrow at 1:20. And in hockey, Team USA has exited the World Cup of Hockey in a 4-2 loss to Canada. The United States record against Canada in Canada Cups and World Cups is now 3-9-1.
Thank you, Jade. Seems like there's a bunch of stuff going on baseball-wise. Yeah, the White Sox and the Cubs. Total polar opposites. Sorry, Luke and Stephen.
That's okay. We've come to terms with it.
And if you're wondering why I said Stephen, we've got Stephen Cohen here in studio joining us as he is going to be talking a little Illini sports with us as it's a busy weekend for the Illini. Obviously no football, but there's a ton of other stuff going on. Volleyball played yesterday, beating Purdue in West Lafayette. Hunter, big win for them.
Yeah, that was huge. That was actually the first time since 2009 Illinois has lost West Lafayette with a win, and it's their first win against a top 10 ranked team since 2014. So it was really big for them, and they've won 6 straight matches so far. They got Rutgers coming in this week, and they've really had Rutgers' number. It should be a pretty quick game this weekend. Everything's looking up for Illinois volleyball right now. They had a tough stretch to start the year against some big-time opponents, but other than that, things have been doing really well. Jacqueline Quaid had another big kill actually in that fourth set there to keep things going, and yeah, they're firing on all cylinders, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, Illini volleyball on a 4-game winning streak right now.
6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 6 straight matches.
Even more. So they're playing Rutgers at Huff Hall. That's going to be the lone home match for the Illini. There is also actually softball, some fall ball getting the season underway. There's going to be 4 games this weekend for Illini softball. Now we've got Stephen here. How you doing, Stephen?
Oh, so great to be back in the studio with my good friend Hunter Warning.
I missed you, buddy.
Yeah, no.
What about us? We're good friends.
Well, I didn't do a whole.
Stephen and I,
I
we go way
sportscast
back
with
to
you.
the old Illini Sportscast.
We didn't talk about
Sportscast.
Queen dying one day, and then the effect that would have in the Minnesota Lynx. Like, yeah.
But apparently,
Good times. Crazy.
But apparently, Orri and I are forgotten in Steven's mind. That's okay.
And
Whatever.
Cole's here, too. What's up, Cole?
What's your name again?
First thing from Cole today. That's going to go
I'm here,
down.
though.
One of the best lines that we've had. I'm curious, Stephen, because first time here on Drive with our team. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about the football team.
So I have a different perspective than the rest of you. They're in the first row, right in front of Barry Hauser.
This ought to be
in
good.
the Marching Illini. And so we're told that we have to keep a positive attitude about the team. And that is a difficult challenge to make right now, just because I think personally that they're a train wreck, and I see all the tweets every single day.
Train wreck.
Wow. I think the wheels are just coming off. Like we had AD Josh Whitman talk to us during a preseason camp for bands, and he really preached to us that it's going to be a 2-3 year process and that this isn't going to happen right away. And that's the kind of mindset he wanted to have us go into the season with, because he knows as the people that are supposed to encourage the crowd, encourage Memorial Stadium, get everyone pumped up, that we can't know this is going to be the year. So even he doesn't know. So.
That was they really hit on that like all off season, and I knew what they were talking about. Like I knew Illinois wasn't going to win like 10 games this year, but
exactly.
when they I did not foresee them like being this bad after the first quarter.
I don't think anyone did.
No, they did. Lovey and Josh Woodman did.
We will win.
They wouldn't have keyed on that so hard.
We will win. ... Eventually.
Lovie Smith hit it really hard at Big Ten Media Days. Like, he was just like, we're not there yet, but give it a few years and we're going to be competing for that Big Ten title. And everybody was like, okay, obviously they're not going to compete for a Big Ten title this year, but now it's like, dang.
The hype was there. My biggest concern is going into this game with Purdue and going into other Big Ten games. The Western Michigan crowd was one of the smallest that they've had now in years, and that was coming off the first solid since 2011. So you're going into the Big Ten season now. You have a team that's 1-2. They're playing Nebraska. That's going to be a ranked team. That's probably going to be 1-3 going into a game with Purdue that's going to be for the toilets in the Western Division in the Big Ten. And that's going to be one of the smallest crowds you've had in years probably here in Memorial Stadium. So you just have to hope the fans can stick it out. They need that memo also that Josh Whitman gave the Marching Illini.
But, Steven, let me ask you this. You said that they told you that it's going to take 2 or 3 years. And
I believe that.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure, you'll probably believe that. But in my mind, I'm glad that he says something like that because that shows some level of honesty and it shows that your program is still a ways away even after you're being hired. Can you appreciate that?
Yeah, no, Paul Kowalczyk, when he was the interim AD, he was not going around saying, yeah, with this Bill Cubey is the guy. He was like, this is not ideal. But that's not what you want to hear from an AD. You want to hear an AD be honest, and you want to hear the state of the athletic program. And he knows, you saw the renderings, I bet, for the new Memorial Stadium yesterday, for the new horseshoe. That looks incredible. They have a plan going forward. They knew, let's forget about the past. Let's forget about Simon Stevanovic and everything that's come in the past. Let's move forward, and that's the whole attitude of the program right now, and that's what they need. Can the fans get behind that, though? That's a big question. That I know they do the big Hail to the Orange campaign. How much is that actually doing to get fan support going in the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not supposed to, like, flat out say, hey, we just suck right now, and we're going to flat out suck for a while. You're just saying, we're going to try to win, but it's going to take a while. That's all you want. You just want some type of honesty. I'm sure that I'm speaking about that as a media member, just saying, just be honest with us for once. but yeah, if you can just express that, everybody can accept that. They may not like it, but they can accept it.
You can't make it that clear though, just because of. Think about it from the player's perspective. Think about if you're a senior on this team. Think about if you're Wes Lunt. You've been here for 3 years now, and you're just thinking to yourself.
But don't players know, Cole? Shouldn't players know?
They know they're going to win.
But you can't like. No player goes into every game thinking we're going to lose. Wes Lunt isn't going to go into a game against Nebraska thinking, "Oh, this game's over with." He's thinking we're going to win this game. It's going to be awesome when we do.
Yeah.
And then when it's not, it's like, oh, it's not until after that you really think about it. But like, you can't be sitting there saying, "Oh, we're going to be bad this year" as an administration. You just can't do that.
Well, players and coaches shouldn't think that way. The AD is supposed to think that. Well, at some level, a coach should, but the AD has to think that way.
He came in as a new guy and he said, "Hey, we're going to win when we can this year, and then in a few years we're going to be great." And then he can't say, "Oh, we're not going to win this year," or else the football team's like, "Yo, what is that? We're going to win some games."
Illinois is a different situation than anything else that I've ever seen in college athletics right now. Like, when you have 3 coaches in 12 months and you have scandals like they've gone through and just the administration and also in the athletic department, this is not just any other Big Ten campus or another school. They deserve that they could think this is not the year because they've earned the privilege to believe that. That's weird to say that they've earned the privilege to say we might not win, but they've been through a dumpster fire and back, and now let's see what they can get actually going forward.
And Josh Whitman was the start of getting rid of that dumpster fire.
Yeah,
he's the guy. He brought some respectability with his hire because this is a guy who went here and he knows the athletic program probably better than every candidate that they try to interview, and it had to come to him, and I appreciate what he said and what he's trying to bring.
Think about it this way, though. Think about last year after Beckman got fired a week before the season, and you didn't hear any of the administration coming out like, "Oh yeah, Bill Cubit's going to lead us to an 0-12 season." They were like, I mean, obviously we knew that, everybody knew that Illinois probably wasn't going to be that good. A coaching change a week before the season doesn't do a team any favors. But if they start talking about that, I doubt Nebraska happens last year. I doubt Geronimo Allison gets that opportunity. I doubt the team.
It's true.
Has enough momentum and, I'm going to sound corny here, but just belief to think that they can beat a team like that. if you keep telling yourself that you can win a game, you're gonna believe it until you lose. And then you're like, oh, you know what? I was stupid for thinking that we could win that game. But
I think it's fascinating to me that, Stephen, you were saying how sold out against North Carolina, and then Illinois probably going to lose to Nebraska, likely. Purdue comes here, and it might not be as big of a crowd. I think that's just people, falling into the we will win trap and thinking it's immediate. I think if most people didn't fall into that trap, we'd probably still see a decent crowd against Purdue.
The phrase was not, we're going to win 2016. It was, we will win. Will win.
Future tense.
So they had to know coming, you've seen all summer. You've talked about it on the show, I'm sure. But Lovey's recruiting classes going forward, they're better. John Gross's recruiting class for 2017, incredible. Number 3 in the nation. Everything's getting better overall. The fan support needs to wait 1 more year, 2 more years. They've been through 10. Why can't they wait another? That's what it gets to.
That crowd point, though, I doubt it'll be as small as Western Michigan just because I bet there's going to be a ton of Purdue people here.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
They're thinking, oh my
This
gosh,
is a win.
we can win.
This is a Big Ten win.
They're like, we can actually win a game.
David Blau is going to get a Big Ten win. Jarrell Hazel is going to get his 7th win in 4 seasons at Purdue. That's exciting.
I have a feeling. I wonder if one of my buddies who went to Purdue just recently is probably going to come down here because I think he is a big fan of the Purdue football program, and I wonder if there's a lot of them that are in Chicago that would want to travel down here.
I don't know. It's
maybe
actually
not as much, but
is it a closer drive from actual Purdue to here than Chicago?
So West Lafayette. So you're saying Chicago to Champaign closer than West Lafayette to Champaign? Yes. West Lafayette might be closer.
I think it might be closer
because Bloomington, because Indianapolis is like a 2-hour drive.
West Lafayette's farther south than Chicago. So so it's closer. Yeah. Okay. So okay, but I also cover. Thank you, Orri. But I also cover the men's hockey team, our club hockey team here on campus this semester, next semester, as Cole did last school year, and I was just at practice today, and
seriously, how do they look?
They look my bud Cristiano Simonetta, he's the play-by-play guy for WPGU's hockey broadcast.
Had him on last week.
Yeah, and so I don't know if he said it back then, but this team looks like a national championship contender, and that's mostly because they have the best goaltender in the country at this level, Joe Owens. They also have returned 2 of their top scorers, James McGing, Eric Cruikshank. Those are 2 juniors now. Owens a senior. They this captain from last year, John Owen, graduated, but they're looking to get around that. They just named a brand new captain, Joey Riddendale. He's a junior, unexpected captain choosing by Coach Nick Fabrini. But overall, that's a guy that can carry this team on the ice as a defenseman, off the ice as just a man, and then you got 2 great players and a great goalie. This is a team that can make some noise in the ACHA.
Who's their 2 associates?
They play in the ACHA?
No, the captain, sorry.
Oh.
Don't they have 3 or...
Yeah, it's Opilka. That's one of the associates. Don't know their 2 off the top of my head right now. Just the practice.
Right?
Zima, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's actually very interesting, considering they didn't put McGing or Cruikshank. Because I think they both... No, Cruikshank had a letter last year, McGing didn't, but yeah, that's interesting, though, that Cruikshank didn't get it again.
Yeah, but when I talked to Coach Fabrini about a month ago before the season, he said basically that the best players don't make the best captains. I saw you said that earlier in the show. I saw that from Twitter, and that was for football, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah, so same thing that Lovey's saying is that the best players don't make the best captains. They're not always the best leaders. Cruikshank and McGing, a lot of penalty minutes, a lot of guys that are going to be very aggressive on the ice. And you want guys that are going to stay on the ice, be leaders on the team on and off the ice, and that's more of what Riddendale is going to bring instead of guys like McGing and Cruikshank.
Well, Cristiano said to us last week that probably one of the biggest problems, not the biggest problem, that the Illini had last year was that they couldn't win on the road. And how did they change that this year? Was it just like line combinations or line matchups that just didn't work last year? Is that how it gets fixed, or what's
big
another
thing
way?
Was John Owen, captain, being hurt last year. He missed 2/3 of the season with a lower body injury. So when you lose your captain, a senior 4-year guy, that's going to be tough. So you can only go as far as McGing and Cruikshank can carry you because they had over 100 points combined last year, which is absolutely insane for a 30-game season. So those 2 guys come up. A lot of new freshmen. Marcelletti, he's a guy from the suburbs. big name. Also, some other guys today when I was at practice, very impressive. They did a shootout. Shaunick Powell, he's a guy that's a junior this year. He missed a lot of last year. Quick two-way defenseman. He looked really good today. It's nice to see him back on the ice. We'll see what he gets going next week when they play Illinois State next Thursday. So.
Lots of hockey action going to be coming. We're almost out of time here. To answer our driving question, I use my handy-dandy MacBook Pro. Hour and 34 minutes from Champaign to West Lafayette, so it actually is closer.
Yeah, I think there's going to be...
Wait. Was it supposed to be Chicago to West Lafayette?
Well, Chicago to Champaign, closer than West Lafayette to Champaign.
But weren't we also discussing how long a drive it is from Chicago to West Lafayette as well?
No.
I don't think so.
That was not a part of the
They're kind of
discussion at
near.
all.
Hunter's the moderator.
Who wants to go to West Lafayette?
Oh.
Little
Purdue drives
Indiana shot.
Apparently I'm hearing voices in my head. Not including the ones that are in the studio right
in your
now.
head.
And Hunter
Yes,
giving us
exactly.
some pre-moderation, pre-presidential debate. That's coming up next week. Definitely get excited for that. Before we head out, quick overlook of what's happening this weekend for Illini sports. Men's tennis in action over in Charlottesville, Virginia. Women's soccer at Maryland tonight and Rutgers over the weekend. Volleyball again taking on Rutgers as well at Huff Hall on Saturday. Women's golf in Greenville, South Carolina. Men's and women's cross country are over in Minneapolis. And softball has some fall ball at Eichelberger Field. 4 games this weekend. Well, if you want to hear us again, go check out dailyillini.com. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Illini Drive. Check out all the great tweets. I want to thank Steven for joining us, and also Adam Bleakney and Ryan Wilson. And for Jade Hilton, Luke Sciacotta, Hunter Warning, and Cole Henke, I'm Orri Benetar. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night. Drive safely. Catch us tomorrow at 6 p.m. here on WPGU 107.1, brought to you by the Illinois Fighting Illini. For tickets and info on the Illini, visit fightingillini.com or call 1-866-ILLINI-1. Once again, fightingillini.com or call 1-866-ILLINI-1 for more ticket information. Thank you and good night. Thank you.